Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl, Kiki Reader, and we are jumping back into our Breathless trilogy. If you have not already listened to the reviews for both Rush, which was the first book, and the second book was Fever, drop down in the description below, click on those first, and then you can join us while we dive into the last book in this trilogy, which is Burn. So Burn is Ash's story. And so the story opens up with Ash. He's sitting in Bryant Park in New York City, and he's looking around. He's kind of thinking about everything that's kind of changed within the last 8 months. Both of his best friends have met, the women of their dreams. They're happy. They're getting married. And he's just kind of looking just thinking about his life. And so while he's there, he spots a beautiful woman, and she's drawing. And so he sees a diamond choker around her neck, and chokers, those are a sign of a submissive. And so of course he's intrigued. And so right away, he wants to know more about this woman. So when she kind of looks up and sees him looking at her, she immediately tries to gather her things and she tries to leave. So Ash, being as quick as he is, he's able to get to her. And right when she's about to turn around, she runs into him and spills all of her stuff. So he apologizes. He's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. He's like, I'll pick it up for you. And then he looks at the drawing and he sees where she was drawing his face. And so he's like, why were you drawing me? And she's like, because you look out of place. You look like you have a lot on your mind, and those type of things intrigue me. That's what I like to draw. Things that look out of place and that are mysterious. And so then he, of course, being Ash, all direct, jumps and just asks her, so what's the deal with the choker and who owns you? And she was like, first of all, no one owns me. And he proceeds to tell her, if I was your dom, you would know exactly what that necklace meant, and you wouldn't have one issue or one trying to figure out what it meant. You would know if it was me. And it automatically just kind of did something to her, So then a few days later, of course we know Ash. When Ash, new people, Ash is all about a private investigator. So of course he has put a private investigator on this woman. And so we find out her name is Josie Carlisle. So the investigator tells Ash that he has seen a man come in a couple of times, but they only kind of come to pick her up, every now and then, and that's it. And so, but today he saw Josie go into a pawn shop, and she apparently sold some jewelry. So Ash tells the investigator, I want you to buy all that jewelry and bring it to me. So then Ash also gives, the investigator also gives Ash the address to the gallery of where she sells her work, because she's an artist. So Ash goes to the gallery. He buys all of her stuff, off rip. He paid even more for it because, he knew, they work on commission. And so he was like, I want everything of hers. On top of it, whatever she brings in, here's my number. I want you to call me and I'm going to buy it up. And he was like, and I don't want her to know who's buying her, her artwork. I want it to be private. And so the guy, of course, is like, sure, he's getting, pretty much double money from an artist that he wasn't making a lot from. So he's fine with it. And so, of course, the owner agrees to this whole setup. He's good. So, meanwhile, Ash's sister, when he goes back to work, Ash's sister, her name is Brittany, she comes to see him. And so he gets the call from Eleanor, who's the receptionist. And she's like, your sister's out here. And he was like, at first he didn't want to see her, but he was like, okay, fine. Because, Ash doesn't deal with any of his family. So Brittany comes in and she tells him that she wants to get from underneath their parents, and she needs help to do it. And so I at first was kind of like, this might be a trick, because all this time, like, the reason he doesn't get along with his family is because Ash is a success on his own. He didn't take his family's money, anything like that. He got it out the dirt, as we like to say. So his family, none of them work. His mother, his father, he has 2 other brothers, and Brittany's his sister. None of them have worked. They all live off of the grandfather, who had this hugely successful company that he sold. And of course, it was enough money to last, probably a couple of lifetimes. But Ash is actually worth even more than the grandfather. And so there's always been this, and the grandfather likes Ash. Like, he really does, because he, looks at him like, wow, you did that. You didn't use my money. You did this on your own. So he's proud of him. And what that has done in return is made him kind of turn on his own daughter and look at them as being so much more pathetic, because none of them work. They all live off of him. So Brittany was a part of this crew. So I'm kind of, skeptical about Brittany. Because I'm like, wait a minute. There's got to be some type of angle. I don't trust her just coming around, So, but she tells him, the family, they're just so venomous. Like, she just needs to, get from underneath them. And she's like, and I can't do it. I don't have anything, She literally brought 2 suitcases, and that was it. She didn't have anything else. Like, she came there in a cab. She didn't have any. And he was like, well, what were you going to do if I said no? She said, honestly, I don't know, because you are my only option. So he tells her, well, I tell you what, I'll give you, I'll talk to Jace. Mia has an apartment that she doesn't use anymore. So we can go ahead. I'll see what Jace wants to do. Maybe what I can pay him for you to stay there until you're able to get on your feet. And he said, for tonight, you can stay at the hotel. And then I'll get you a job. Because she has a college degree. But she's just never used it. And she was married to this older man that their mother had pretty much set up for her. And it was horrible. The guy was awful. And the marriage didn't last but 2 years. The mother, of course, looked at her like a failure. You couldn't keep that marriage together. That man had all that money. And so she hasn't even used her college education. So he's like, I'll get you a job at, one of the, at the hotel. And want something in administration. And he's like, and I'll get you the job, but if you don't do it, if you fail at the job, like, we will fire you. Like, this isn't like some cushy thing. And she's like, no, that's fine. I'll work hard. I'll make you proud of me, So he's still kind of iffy with her too. And I'm with him too. He's like, you got to keep an eye and kind of see what's going on with that, if she's being really legit. But I mean, that was nice of him too, like, trying to at least, really help her. And so Josie goes back to the pawn shop, because now you got to remember, he's bought all her paintings. Girl got money now. So she's going back to buy the jewelry back. Well, jewelry's gone. And so she's about in tears. She's like, no, that was my mother and my grandmother's jewelry. Like, no, like, there's got to be a way that you can get that back. He's like, no, once I sell it, that's it. So she said, well, what if, can you like give them my information, and have them call me and let them know I'll pay them double. I'll pay them whatever, but I got to get that jewelry back. And so he, gave her a piece of paper, and she wrote down her information. And so when she walks out of the pawn shop, Ash is there. But she notices, she's looking, and she's like, wait a minute. He looks like he was waiting for me. And sure enough, That's what he was doing. So he she's like, what the heck? Like, are you having me followed? Like, how did you know where I was? And he's like, yeah, maybe I do have someone following you. And he shows her the jewelry. And she's like, wait a minute. Like, basically, like, what kind of sick game are you trying to play? So he tells her, he's like, listen, if you agree to dinner with me, I will give you the jewelry. Nothing, nothing else. I don't want anything else. I just want a dinner with you. And so at first she's like, I don't know. I don't know you. Blase, blase. And she's like, this is like blackmail. He's like, yeah, but that's the deal. And so, of course, she agrees. So Ash is waiting outside of the Bentley Hotel, which is, his hotel. And she's like super late. And so he's pissed and he's about to leave when she rushes in and she's apologetic. She's like, I'm so sorry. She's like, I was painting. I was in a zone and I just totally lost still paint there. So he knows she's not lying. So when they sit down, Ash like just starts asking her like tons of questions. And so she finds herself opening up to him because she felt that spark in the park as well. So she finds herself just feeling like, okay. So she starts telling stuff that she hasn't told people in years. So she opens up about her mother who died about 2 years ago. She had cancer and it was the second time she'd had it. The first time was when she was around like 19 years old, when her father was still in the picture. And he left because he said he couldn't watch her die, which is crazy, but that's what he said. And so she hasn't seen him. I think it had been like about 18 years the next time she saw him, because she's 28 now. So I guess 16 years, because that was 2 years ago when her mother died. So she told him then, like, I don't, pretty much I've been, all this time I haven't seen you and I've been fine. Like, we can just keep this thing going. She doesn't want anything to do with him because to her, that's not what family does. And she's just completely done with it. And so then she's like, okay, I've told you, like, okay, it's time for you to give me some, information about yourself. And so kind of the same thing happens with Ash. He finds himself kind of opening up and telling more than he had anticipated on telling her. So he tells her about his family, about his sister coming around, that he's not really too, 100%, on board, that she's legit, but, he's going to keep his eye on it. And then he asks her, why isn't she wearing the choker? She's honest with him, and she tells him that when she talked to Michael and she asked him, what does this mean? He didn't give her the same answer that Ash did. He just was like, it's just, it's just something fun. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't really take it, with the seriousness that a dominant normally would. And when she heard how Ash wanted to be with her, she wanted that, and she admitted that to him. And so Ash lays it all out and he lets her know, listen, I want to be your dom. I want us to do this, like, and I need to know what you want to decide to do. And he just puts it all out there for her. And even though she's kind of like, oh my gosh, I just met this man, she's completely intrigued with it because he's saying all the things that she wants. And so she says, give me a few days, because she felt it. She could feel it in the touch as they would touch hands on, on the table. She could feel it. And so she was just like, give me a few days. This is a lot. This is heavy, Give me a few days and I will give you an answer. And he's like, okay, deal. Well, a week has passed and Ash is like pissed, like beyond pissed, because